Hey, welcome back. Here we are. It's episode 4, session 4, whatever you want to call it, of Worship Mechanics. We are working through how to use the acoustic guitar in leading worship, and we're getting close to the end. This is kind of the time where we're going to bring it all together. It's all going to start making sense. So let's kind of focus in today, and we'll start off with a little bit of review. So last time we talked about the E minor chord. We introduced the C chord and the G chord. And we talked about how those three chords are used in the beginning of the song, Same Power, that we have done at the church. And so we're going to look at that song a little bit today, a little bit later on. But first, let's look at these chords. Remember, E minor, you've got your index finger on the second fret of the A string. You've got your middle finger on the second fret of the D string, or you could switch those fingers out and use these two middle fingers, so the middle finger and the ring finger in those two spots. Now the C chord, you've got ring finger on the third fret of the, there we go, on the third fret of the A string. You've got middle finger on the second fret of the D string, and index finger on the first fret of the B string. You want to listen, make sure no notes are choked off like this. You don't want that. And how do we get that? We get that by thumb in the back, fingertips used on the strings, not laying our hand out across the strings like that, but using fingertips, just like that. And then the last chord is the G, which we were playing like this. So middle finger on the third fret of the low E string, index finger on the second fret of the A string, and then zoom out just a little bit. We've got ring finger on the third fret of the B string, and little finger on the third fret of the high E string. So it looks like that. Right there. Okay, those were the three chords we learned last week. And when you put those chords together, you're playing what's called a chord progression. And a chord progression is just a fancy way of saying you're playing a song. You know, there's another song at church we do. You know, that the Majestic. The heavens declare your greatness, oceans cry out to you, mountains they bow down before you, so I'll join with the earth and I'll give my praise to you. Well, that whole song is just a chord progression. G, D, G, and then a chord B minor, G, D, and then that last little part, E minor, D, G, A, D. It's just a chord progression. It's a list of chords stuck together to make a song. That's a chord progression. And what you're going to find out as we learn songs and introduce songs is that a lot of songs use very similar chord progressions, if not the same chord progressions. And they just write new words over the same chord progressions. One very popular chord progression would be E minor, C, G, D. It's in lots of songs. Or I could take those same four chords and just switch the order around and go G, D, E minor, C, G, D, E minor, C. It's in a million songs, seriously. So what you'll see is, as we build chord progressions, you'll start recognizing songs that use those chord progressions. Now, before we put these chords together in a progression and learn a song, yes, we're going to learn our first song today. Let's talk about what your right hand is doing, because we've talked about how to, build chords and where your fingers go and all that stuff. Let's talk about what's happening over here. Now, we're not going to get into anything real complicated right away. You're probably saying that's fine. Your right hand is responsible really for the rhythm of what's happening. And really a guitar, especially an acoustic guitar, is kind of doing two things at once. It's a pitched instrument in that there are actual pitches, notes in other words, but it's also a rhythm instrument because you're playing a rhythm with this hand over here. So what we're going to do is we're just going to talk about a very simple downstroke pattern, okay? Because what you're going to see is what the right hand is doing is really a pattern that just repeats over and over and over. You get comfortable with the pattern, you don't even have to think about it anymore. But the simplest pattern we could do, obviously, is just going to be a whole bunch of just down strokes, like that, just over and over, right? So, looking at our chords that we learned, E minor, C, G, we're going to kind of double time what I just did, and we're going to do one measure, which would be 4 beats. I'm going to kind of throw in some music theory terms as we go. We don't need to take time and talk about what everything means. I'll just kind of introduce the idea and move on. So one measure, which would be 4 beats of E minor. And what we're going to do is we're going to play it 8 times. So for every beat, we're going to play the chord twice. So if I were to be counting off here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, then for every time I counted, I'd play that chord twice. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay? So if I do one measure or 4 beats of E minor, then it's going to sound like this. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now, I'm going to play those next 2 chords, which I know they're the harder chords and they're going to be a quicker chord change, but you'll get used to it. I'm going to play those next 2 chords for half that time. So I'm going to play half a measure or 2 beats of the C. 1, 2. And then I'm going to play the G for the same amount. And I'm going to go ahead and finish off the measure and count out 3, 4. 3, 4. Okay? So that last little part there sounds like this, starting on the C. 1, 2, 3, 4. Like that. You put the whole thing together and it sounds like this. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Do it again. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, now, let me say something very important at this point. Because of the nature of this video, number one, the guitar is not really the only thing that the Worship Mechanics series is dealing with. It's not just guitar lessons. So I am compressing what would normally be a lot more time spent in regular one-on-one guitar lessons. I'm compressing it into a shorter amount of time because, number two, you have the ability to go back and watch these videos again as often as you need. That being said, do not feel under any kind of pressure at all to have to do this quickly, to have to feel like you have to play that as fast as he's playing it or whatever. It's not like that. Take it as slow as you need. The main thing is to be accurate, not fast. And you need to know, at first, those chord changes will feel awkward and will take a little bit of time. and that's normal. That's how it is for everybody. It was that way for me. It's that way for everybody. You don't just start off being able to change chords real quick or anything like that. That will happen with muscle memory as you teach your fingers where to move, and that happens with practice. Okay, so back to the song. What we're talking about here is the song "The Same Power." You're going to play one measure or 4 beats of E minor, 2 beats of C, 2 beats of G. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And just get comfortable doing that. Okay? Now, the words start singing over that chord progression there. And I don't remember the words off the top of my head, but I can see 2, 3. Waters raging at my feet. I can feel those surrounding me. And I'll put this chart in the email so that you can download the chart and look at it. Here we come to the end of the verse. We will not be overtaken. That's a D chord. We will not be overcome. That's a C chord. Now your D is going to be in that chord chart that I sent out in the last email. Yeah, if you noticed at the bottom of the email, there was an attachment with a chord chart that covered the most basic, commonly used chords for guitar. That D is in there. It shows you how to play it. Just in case you're curious, it looks like this right here. Index finger on the 2nd fret of the G, ring finger on the 3rd fret of the B, and middle finger on the 2nd fret of the E. That's a D chord. With those chords right there, that's pretty much going to be everything you need to play the song. Again, coming out of the end of that verse, we will not be overtaken. We will not be overtaken, we will see, not be overcome. And then when you go into the chorus of that song, you go to a G, and you're still playing these down strums, like that. So you start on a G, and you keep strumming. The same power that rose Jesus from the grave. And then you go to an E minor. The same power that commands the dead. And then you go to a C, E minor, back to the D. Okay, I know I'm running you through this quickly, but what my purpose here is to show you how this all gets put together. And then you can take the time and kind of work this out and, like I say, build up that muscle memory. But what you need to be able to do is simple. You need to be able to read a chord chart, and from that chord chart, understand where to put your fingers on the guitar to play those chords. Number 2, you need to be able to read a song chart for a worship song, because you'll have access to a lot of those. I'll figure out a way to get those to you. If you email me, you got one you want, I probably have it on my computer. I can send it to you. But you need to be able to read those charts and say, oh, okay, that chord changes over that particular word, and here's how I play that chord. And then you need to be able to just put it together and play the song. And it's really a lot more simple than it seems. But if you take really what we've worked on so far, you have the beginnings of the skills you need to be able to play these songs and then, of course, lead worship. Now, we are going to take a little bit of time next time and talk more about rhythm in the right hand and finger picking in the right hand. So next time that we look at the guitar in episode 5, we'll spend more time talking about the right hand during that one. But for this time, here's what I want you to do. Now, don't forget, keep working on your exercise. Keep practicing just the chords by themselves. Keep learning new chords. And then look at this song, Same Power. You'll see the attachment at the bottom of the email. Open it up. You'll see the words to the song, and you'll see where to change chords. All you have to do is just keep strumming down strums. And wherever it tells you to change chords, just change chords over that word. It's real easy. You see the words, you sing the song, and when you get to a part of the song where the chord changes, just change the chord. And you'll see how it all kind of comes together. At this point, if you have any questions, please send me an email. Ask me. You may, now that we're kind of putting it all together, you may have some questions. And I'd be glad to help you out if you have some specific issues or concerns. But for now, this week, that's what we're going to cover. Hit it hard, practice a little bit every day, and we'll be back next week, and we'll talk about what the right hand does and finger picking. All right, thanks.